Hey, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Stream On. I'm Jim Williams, your host. And it's from time to time, we like to take a look at the tech side of streaming. And I know a lot of you got some toys over the holidays, and some of you are waiting to perhaps purchase something in 2019 because you don't want to, 2018, you get the old stuff, but the new stuff comes out in 2019. So today we're going to do some tech talk with one of our favorite guests. Of course, that would be Jay Henderson of Boom Media. Now, Jay, of course, is a streaming video expert. He can tell us everything we need to know about the televisions that you can purchase. You can talk to us about the streaming boxes, streaming sticks, all the different aspects of how you can consume streaming video. And obviously, that becomes very important to all of us. So let's get started, Jay. Great to have you here as we kick off 2019. What are some of the things that we should be looking at least from the smart TV side? What are your thoughts on that one?
So you are in luck. I did just go through this, and I've been through it many times because I am, kind of a nerd. I really like to have the newest, latest things. So when you walk into a store like, say, Best Buy, you see a million different things. They all look beautiful, and all the information is intimidating. The first thing you need to know is don't buy 1080 anymore. If you just see an HD 1080p TV, it's going to be outdated very soon. And you got to try to purchase to keep up with the future, so to speak. Everything you're going to see essentially is going to be a 4K UHD TV. And that is a really broad range of what that could mean. The best way to really do it, in my opinion, is to just, obviously, number one is going to be your budget. And then to just kind of compare within your budget what you're seeing. Obviously, what they're showing you is always going to be a little more vivid. Not everything you look at is going to be as gorgeous and vivid as it is in the store. So that's one really important thing to think about, is a lot of the programming you're going to see where it's coming from is not going to be 4K. Very few cable channels operate in 4K. DVD players and things like that. When you talk about, I think Netflix has like a UHD section, which is useful, but it's not overwhelming with UHD content. So a lot of what you're getting is still not going to look as good as what you're looking at. So the first thing that I always look at, obviously, is the price. And I always kind of go by brand now, because what I've learned over my last probably 3 TV purchases is buying a smart TV is essentially useless, because a lot, especially when you start talking about 4K stuff, the hardware just doesn't keep up. So even like I just got this new, I got a Sony Bravia, the highest level of it. It's like an X something or other. It's the highest level. It had the beautiful X million something processor, and I'm like, oh man, This is going to be great. I'm going to be able to, just use the Android TV built into the TV. Got it home, and sure enough, it was the same as the last Sony Bravia I watched or purchased. And, you go to watch Netflix, some of the UHD content, and you have buffering and stuttering. And, my standpoint always is, if you're having that, check your connection. It's definitely not that. The hardware just really isn't as good as getting a device for it. So, when you go and you have all these different hardwares, Samsung has their own operating system, LG, Vizio, all of them have their own operating systems, but really you're never going to get as much out of a smart TV as you are a device by getting a NVIDIA Shield or a Fire TV Cube or whatever their latest greatest is. So that's, number one is you could pretty much forget about that. If it feels like they're charging you a lot extra for a processor, don't buy into it. Get the picture, because that's really what matters. HDR is very popular now. It's high dynamic range. It kind of gives you more realistic colors and lights and things like that. So that's also, almost all of them are HDR, but there's certain levels of it. So it's basically kind of revolves around light. So I don't even know if they have the levels of it, like, advertised on their little stickers, but you want to be over 1,000 lumens with that. And then you get into different things like your refresh rate. I think the standard now is 120. They actually stopped doing 240. I don't know if you ever looked at one of the TVs, but they call it the soap opera effect, where you're watching TV and it just looks weird like a soap opera.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your 240 hertz refresh rate. So they've kind of got rid of that just because of, people saying it looks weird. So your standard now is 120. If you see 60, it's probably, a cheap TV. You're going to want to stay at 120. And I mean, other than that, it's really size, color, and budget,
It's funny, over the years, as being someone who's been a television producer and director, you always see the picture coming out, and the joke was always be, it looks good here. Okay.
Yeah.
Coming out of the truck, it's going to look good. Okay.
Yeah.
Because everything is perfect. If you are watching in, let's say middle America, let's say you're watching this, watching the event in Chicago, people forget and misunderstand that it really depends a great deal on if you're watching it on cable, on your cable provider, if you're streaming it on your streaming provider. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to look the same as it does in the truck, because we're sending a fresh signal out. By the time it goes through everything it goes through to get to your house, trust me, it is crushed and almost splattered by the time it gets to you. And we see that inside the truck because we have return, right? Mm-hmm. So I can watch what we're doing on a minor delay. And you see it and you look at it and go, how come it looks like crap there and it looks great coming out of the truck?
Yeah, well, a million reasons why, probably.
Exactly. And that goes to your point. I will say, I've always been a big Sony person, like Sony. One of the things that my brother, who is in the business of renting out these trucks with crews and such, they build them. They bought a ton of Vizios because they are incredibly durable.
Mm-hmm. And made in America.
Yeah. And Vizio, they use them for if you watch any of the NBA games, or if you watch Major League Baseball, whatever your sport is, you'll see a number of monitors that you see in front of the talent as they're standing there talking about the game. Well, those are small Vizio monitors. Mm-hmm. And, I have seen, if you're on the cheaper side, I thought Vizio did a pretty good job with what they did. And then again, on the high side, Sony always does a great job.
Yeah. The picture, like all complaining about hardware aside, the picture is incredible. And I mean, I knew that. I already have a Bravia, a much smaller one. But I mean, these kind of things to me are an investment because of all the time your family and all the people in your home are going to spend using this, and hopefully you're going to get many years out of it. So, I mean, to go cheap isn't always better, but I mean, Vizio, I had a Vizio for a long time too. And I found that it didn't quite last as long as I would have liked it to, but I mean, this was years ago. So, I mean, I guess I can't speak for, what they're up to now, or if they've improved or got worse. I don't really know.
Well, one of the things that Sony did, and we're now really getting into the geek speak, but Sony was the first to come out with what is called absolute black. Now, yes, that seems silly. If you turn on television and you see black, you're assuming it's black. But Sony, of course, had what is called absolute black. And when absolute black in basic lingo means that it is the darkest picture, which before you can get bright, you have to get dark. Mm-hmm. And that's where Sony developed the absolute dark. And the absolute black was very important in Sony's picture development.
Yeah, so, and I mean, it's important for viewing too, because nothing is more annoying than when you think, you just spent thousands of dollars on a TV and the scene gets dark and you see blotches and pixels. And that's another thing that I think is important for shopping for a TV is checking the glare. So like when your screen goes dark, if you have lights on with a lot of TVs, you can know all you see is the light reflecting. So, I mean, that was a big selling point for me with the Sony. I mean, it doesn't hurt while you're in the store. Turn on your phone flashlight and shine down that TV and see what it's returning, because glare is a nightmare for me. Like, because my house is bright almost all the time. Sure. So when you get to those dark colors and you see blotchy, and then what you can't see is just light reflecting, it's just the worst. So it definitely was a huge selling point for me on the Sony.
The other part of that is for gamers, and a lot of people, using their monitors for gamers.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the games are very high tech in their development, much more so than say you would if you're just watching Netflix or whatever you're streaming, Amazon Prime, Hulu, whatever. You're going to, the games really bring out whether or not a television is quality or not, because the games are so incredibly well developed. So that's another check. If you're not, I'm not saying if you're, I'm not saying you have to be a gamer. What I am saying is if, a lot of times you go to a Best Buy or something like that, you'll see them with the games, the games hooked up to a monitor. Check that monitor out, because if it looks good, then it's going to definitely look good on when you watch your favorite show on Netflix or Hulu or whatever you want to watch it on.
Yeah, but we also don't want to trap gamers into thinking they should go buy a giant TV.
No,
I've learned that lesson the hard way. You go and you think this is going to look awesome playing Call of Duty, and then all of a sudden, 5 minutes in, you're dizzy because it's just a bit much.
It's too big, yeah.
Too big. That's why they make gaming monitors. So,
but
it's cool for games like MLB or even Madden and stuff. But any kind of shooter games or a lot of motion, you really got to reduce the size of what you're looking at, or it's gonna give you a headache. Make you barf, maybe.
Right, you don't want an 80-inch monitor if you're playing that game. No.
Yeah, for sure.
24, 25, that's not bad.
That's it. That's your sweet spot, 24, I think.
Yeah, so definitely stay away from the 80. I'm just saying that the quality of the game on the monitor is really great, and you get a better idea. So, but Jay's absolutely 100% on the. If you're a gamer, you definitely going to. You're going to get PSD just watching on an 80-inch screen.
For sure. Too much.
It's way too much. Too big, too much. So let's talk now about downshift into the Fire Sticks, the Rokus, the stick devices, if you will. There are many of them. Let's talk a little bit about pros and cons of stick versus box, my friend.
Well, I mean, King of the Castle, still NVIDIA Shield. It's has been for a long time. It's probably going to continue to be. And what it brings is power. It's powerful. It's fast. It doesn't lag. It's capable of higher connection speeds. It's just the best device out there. And there's only a handful of devices that run on true Android TV. NVIDIA Shield is one of them. I think Sony did put one out. I kind of feel like I haven't seen it in a while. It maybe flopped. I don't know. And then you get into your Amazon devices. Their latest box was the Cube, which I have. Mm-hmm. I tested one out, and they're okay. Right. Basically, what they did is took an Amazon box and they added like an Amazon Dot inside it. So if you're frequently using Alexa, it's great for things like Alexa, play Netflix. Oh, I better be careful. Mine might turn on.
Right.
I'm going to have to use code words.
Right.
It's good for things like that. They're plenty powerful. I think the Amazon devices do limit you so if you'd like to sideload apps or do use apps that just aren't generally available in an app store, Amazon makes it very difficult to do that. But for things like Prime, Netflix, Hulu, all your basic apps, the Amazon devices are cheaper and they operate just as well. The new Fire Stick is actually a real zippy little thing. It's only $10 more than the old stick, and I'll tell you what, it is easily the most superior stick they've ever released. It's fast. It's 4K. I think the problem with Amazon, other than the limited app store, is you can't really add more memory. So if you do want to use an app that downloads movies, I think Vudu still allows you to download if you purchase. It's not really a good option for things like that. Or if you play a lot of games, they're just not made for that. They're simply made for using Prime and getting you into their ecosystem. Season one's free, but the next 4 seasons are $18.
Right.
Amazon's great for milking you for your money, for sure, which I'm not hating on. It's a great idea, but it's still king of the castles. Anything Android. I frequently use an Apple TV. They're pretty good, but I mean, like even watching, I don't know if you're familiar with what MB is. It's kind of like a Plex server, but using 1080p stuff without a reduced bit rate, the Apple TV struggles with that. Roku, I haven't used a Roku in probably a year, ever since they've blocked the ability to kind of give you the freedom of M3U players and any kind of IPTV, anything related to you not paying Roku, they've blocked them. So I don't suggest anything Roku either.
Well, the Roku thing, one of the things that, I mean, I've got Roku and I've got Amazon. And Roku is simple. Okay. It's simple to play. It's simple to load. If all you want to watch is Netflix and Amazon Prime or Hulu or whatever, you're fine. And Jay has been my guru here. Okay, guys. I went ahead and got the Amazon because of some of the products that Jay sells. And I was able to, through watching many of his videos.
Hope you watch the ads too.
Oh, I watched it all. I understand YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Yes, I'm not clicking off your ads. Anyway, watching Jay's YouTube videos is a masterclass in how to make this work. Now, that said, you have to make one very important understanding, and that is when Jay tells you to type something, type it exactly the way he tells you to type it. Otherwise, you will spend another 45 minutes cursing yourself for missing the / in the wrong place, or a G instead of a B, or something you missed because you mistyped it.
Yeah, it's always that simple too, isn't it?
So back to masterclass here with Jay. The one thing, and I think it. Let me just say this. As I said before, I am not technical. Sounds crazy. Producer, director of television, not being technical. No, not. Okay, zilch. But it's fun. I will tell you this. There's a sense of accomplishment that when you do watch these things, you actually get it to work. And you're like, man, all right, dude, I am there. I have beat the system. I made
ready
it
to
work.
Start your own YouTube channel.
No. No. But it does give you a sense of technical accomplishment that you have downloaded a downloader, then taken the downloader and downloaded what you want, then launched what you want, and guess what? It actually works. But I will say, it's always good to listen, and pausing is not bad. Pause it and read what it says on the screen.
For sure.
Or many times in Jay's tutorials, there are the always important notes at the bottom. By all means, read the notes in the bottom because they will be greatly helpful to you.
Not only that, but I can edit the notes after, and I can't edit the video after. Well, once it's up, it's up. I mean, I think the point of, going into that is don't buy a Roku because you don't even have that option for that experience. And I think what really upset me about Roku was you had the ability to do it. Like when you bought your Roku, it was under the impression you were able to do that. And so when I'm recommending Roku and people are buying them and they're able to do all these things, suddenly they can't. And I mean, it kind of makes all of us look bad. And Roku it just seems like they were just kind of laughing all the way to the bank. You're doing things that you're watching things that you're not paying us or our affiliates for. It felt dirty. I didn't really like the way they did it. And, Amazon and Android, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that. Apple, obviously, most people know if you're, in their ecosystem, it's a decent enough device, but I mean, it's got flaws, I think, but you know what? They do produce a great picture. I easily compared to the NVIDIA Shield. So if you're in love with Apple, you would probably get some use out of it for sure and enjoy it.
Well, the other thing that you brought up, and I've seen people that'll do it. Jace talks about, the non-Amazon, the non-Roku, the non-Apple, which of course you're talking about NVIDIA Shields, and you sell a couple of other different boxes that are also quite popular. The only difference, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you are able to install an app on your phone, if you buy one of these boxes, you can do relatively the same thing in the same process. Is that a fair statement, Jay?
Not really. Especially when you're talking about the NVIDIA Shield.
I was absent that day in your class.
Android TV is a totally different ecosystem.
Okay.
Not just that, but so just because you've developed an app for Android mobile, which is obviously the most popular way to develop your apps. So let's use MB for an example, or Netflix, or any of the big ones.
Okay.
There's an Android mobile version and there's an Android TV version. The
Right.
Android TV version is going to be made for Android TV devices. Now, to throw a little more confusion into that, when you go on, say, Amazon or, Banggood or GearBest or any of these that are selling the Android TV H90X Pro, those actually run on Android mobile. So the easiest way to tell is by going into the Play Store. Well, and also if it's not an NVIDIA Shield, chances are it's Android mobile. The Xiaomi Mi Box was, I think, the only other one that really took off that had the Android TV. But anyways, so if you can go into your Google Play Store on your device and you see it looks exactly like it would on your Android phone, you're not watching Android TV. It's Android mobile. It's a box that took the mobile open source operating system, and basically what they're just called launchers. They changed the way the home screen looks. So they put a launcher on it to make it look more TV-ish or user-friendly, and that's it. It's really that simple. I think the flaw with that is there are some apps that really just don't work well for the Android on a TV when you're using an Android mobile device, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
it does. So I guess what I'm asking is, from your standpoint, don't be afraid. If you got to go to Amazon, that's cool. If you want to go to Apple because you're in that ecosystem, fine. But if you're not too afraid of trying something a little bit different, then the Android type boxes that you have, that people, like you said, and I'm sure when you said NVIDIA Shield, everybody was thinking of something out of Game of Thrones.
Maybe.
But at the end of the day, there are ways to begin to become more streaming savvy that Jay has through his store. And I got to tell you, his YouTube channel, as I said, it's like a master's class in learning all this stuff. Makes it simple to do, and so you shouldn't be afraid to try it.
No, definitely not. And I mean, even getting on to your smart TV and getting a feel for the products that you're after. And by products, I mean apps and IPTV or there's VOD and MB and things like that. Just getting a feel for them is sometimes a really good Kickstarter, because there are apps that function for sure. IPTV, I think, functions a little better than, say, your 1080p or your 4K video on those devices. But when you get into Samsung, LG, they really just make it as hard as they can to make it user friendly. So you have like the Smart IPTV app or the Smart STB app, same name, completely different world in setting up. But a really good starting point is just kind of deciding what it is you want in your product and just playing around with it. Get into the Smart IPTV app, get even a 2-day trial from someone for $2 or something like that, just to get a feel for it. And once you get comfortable with that and you go, okay, this is pretty dope. Now I would like this to work better and be cooler and easier. And it's stunning how many people start that way and then they go get, an Amazon device or whatever. And then suddenly they're like, oh, now I'm using, 3 services, and I use M3U and I use, Mac based and Mag type devices, and I have my formula over here. And it's just like you said, it's fun and people do feel accomplished. It's a little addicting, I think. It becomes a hobby as well as entertainment.
Actually, it has become a hobby for me. It's amazing because some of the products we're talking about with Jay down the road here, I got to tell you, folks, they are revolutionary. They will blow your mind and change your life. Okay, but that's a tease for another time, another day. The one last one before we start to wrap things up here. Folks came. I have neighbors who suddenly think, because I've been watching Jay's tutorials, that I'm a genius in doing things. Yesterday, my neighbor, lovely woman, said that she understood that she could get Netflix and Amazon Prime on her Xfinity television. So I went in, I looked at it, and I spent 45 minutes trying to go through the process that they had said how to do it. And I said, but wait a minute, didn't you just buy a Fire Stick? And she goes, yeah. It took 5 minutes to show her how to use the Fire Stick, and 45 minutes trying to explain that to get into the place where you needed to find what she wanted to find on the Xfinity was still confusing. And this is a woman who is a professor who is not stupid. It's just that it's just so incredibly cumbersome the way the cable companies lay these out, because they don't want you to have Netflix or Amazon Prime.
I was just going to say, it seems like that probably isn't a mistake that they make it. They want to intimidate you. And what Spectrum just did something too, where they released an app for Apple TV. So now all you have to do is download the app, and through your network, they'll automatically log you into this app. Like I think they're turning a corner and realizing we're going to lose this battle. People are, the loss in 2017 was over $1 billion. I haven't heard anything specific yet on 2018, but I wouldn't be surprised if that doubled. I mean, people are not just sick of paying for, ridiculous prices for things, but then you got to pay a little more if you want to watch baseball, and you got to pay a little more if you like the UFC. That's an extra $50 a month to catch a pay-per-view. People are just sick of it. And I think cable companies right now are just kind of starting to say, it might be time that we adapt to this instead of, trying to just continue to, it's almost overpower. We're overpowering the consumers with, complication. And look how easy it is. We send a guy out to your house. Listen, it doesn't get it. I mean, it's easier and faster to do everything. Just like you said, plug in a Fire Stick, punch in your Wi-Fi password, and download whatever you want.
Right. And the funny thing is, I tested for, I won't say the cable company because I don't want them to get angry at me. A cable company had what they, are going to be marketing as a competitor to Sling and to, DirecTV and all the other, companies that are out there now offering streaming. And they wanted to say, all right, you don't want cable? That's fine. You can buy us through a streaming service. I checked the streaming service out, and I'm like, it is the worst crap I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it doesn't work. They don't know how to stream. Why are they doing this?
They're absolutely out of touch.
Yeah, they don't have a clue. And they were actually streaming some channels in standard definition. And I'm like, why would I pay you the equivalent of what cable would cost for an inferior product?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably method to the madness with that. I mean, it goes to, even MLB does that. They'll have 1080. I think a lot of them did 4K this year if you had cable. But if you go to their MLB app on any device, it's 720. And I think there's two reasons for that. Number one is they lose quality. And I don't think they have, which is stunning because they have all the money in the world, like hire smart people. But I mean, when you start talking about reduced bit rate and things like that, but not only that, but I think that they assume the consumer is dumb. And I think so like I said earlier, like if I have a customer saying, I'm trying to watch, HBO and it's buffer, everything I watch buffers. The first thing I say is run a speed test on your device. So what that means is if you're not getting a fast enough connection speed, you're going to have reduced quality. And I think that's why they reduce the quality. I think they reduce it down to 480 or 540 is even, something they do. They do that basically to protect themselves from getting the phone call that says everything buffers, this sucks, And I think that's why they do it. I'm almost certain that's why MLB does it. And you know what? The last time I paid the year service or MLB, it was awful. I could not wait to be done with it and never pay again. It was horrible. And I have great internet. The mobile devices, it's just not there, and I don't understand why. MLB is worth billions and billions of dollars. Like, hire people who can do this job better. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, and surprisingly, BAM, which is, baseball's advanced marketing, who runs, they're the most successful of all the leagues. They now have taken over the NHL. BAM runs the NHL Center Ice project. So this is not, they're not new to the party. they should absolutely know what's going on here. But sometimes things don't work as though they should or should in that situation.
Yeah.
So Jay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Nothing makes me happier than during like a pay-per-view, like a UFC pay-per-view, when you the next day you read on an article that says, oh, DirecTV subscribers are fired up because the fight was cut out and was buffering the whole night with all subscribers, and like there was something, I think it was the World Cup, YouTube TV like really struggled and handed out a bunch of refunds and things like that, and we're all sitting here with our IPTV like, what's the problem? Like everything's working great here. Right. We're watching it in 1080.
It's the other thing that's funny. I don't know if you all remember this, folks, but around Thanksgiving time, there was the Bleacher Report did the Tiger Woods Phil Mickelson pay-per-view. Now, with all due respect, I love golf. These two guys are, iconic, no question. But for me to sit there and say, I'm going to pay $19 to watch these two guys play 18 holes. No, seriously?
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I get a phone call from my brother saying, hey, I'm watching this. I'm like, you fool, you paid $19 to watch that? And he's like, oh, no. He goes, it's free because for whatever reason, I just got there was a problem with it. So Turner had to give it away for free.
Oh, no kidding.
So I watched the last, hole or two of it. I wouldn't have watched otherwise. And you're sitting there going, how is this possible? And Facebook, okay. Facebook had baseball this past year. They paid $250 million to a baseball game of the week. And so I'm watching it on the computer. Then it won't, it's like buffering like crazy. You can't watch, it's choppy. I go to the phone, that doesn't work. I go to the streaming app on TV, that doesn't work. And so I send an email to MLB, and I'm like, guys, this whole Facebook thing, you got to get this straightened out. I don't understand how in this day and age, in the streaming where kids can stream from their phone, how come Facebook can't stream a baseball game, and they do Facebook Live? I don't get it. So it's not an exact science. There's a lot left to be done. And companies and organizations that you think would be ahead of the pack are not. So what are we going to be looking for, Jay, in 2019? Give me some of the things to look out for.
Oh, boy.
And we're going to be back because we got some exciting stuff coming up in about a month. And I got to tell you, as I said, it is life-changing and mind-blowing for you. But we're going to save on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, so 2019 to me is probably going to be the most competitive year as far as your cord cutters go. And by competitive, I mean there's a lot of, not only is there a lot of different services and different providers for all the, each service alone, but we're also now competing with companies really coming after guys that are selling anything against them. And I mean, you could go really deep into it and say, the guys who invest in Time Warner also invest in MasterCard and all these different things, but none of that really matters. I think what we're going to start seeing is, first of all, the cable companies, like they're beginning to, are going to start turning a corner and realizing this is here to stay. Cable is going to be a thing of the past very soon, I think. Always look now for your best internet connection. I think that's your best choice. And I think we're going to see a lot of services drop and new services come, and it's going to become a cycle. I don't know if you remember, or how frequently you used Kodi, but that's kind of what happened to Kodi. So what happened was Kodi was kind of an underground thing. Then it wasn't underground anymore. A lot of developers were in it and doing their own thing, and it was a great platform. And then people started going after them, and then it kind of turned into a revolving door, and add on of the week, add on of the day, that kind of thing. And I think the same thing's going to happen with your kind of underground VOD and IPTV services. And I think the ones who are able to innovate and duck and move are going to be the ones who are here to stick around, and hopefully that includes me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is that the cable operators realize now that there are a lot of cord nevers. Okay, there are a lot of people who are millennials who have never invested in cable and have no interest in cable.
Right.
And those who have had interest in cable are tired of it and didn't like it. So they get that. But Spectrum, Comcast, Charter is Spectrum. I was trying to think of another one. Doesn't matter. Cox, thank you. All of those companies they're going to make their money on broadband. And where things are going to start to change a bit is the programming aspect, because cable, in 1984, they're allowed to bundle, and that's where the bundling started. Mm-hmm. So what you're going to find now is niche programming. The Netflix, the Hulus, why they've been successful at doing things because they can throw money at programming because ratings are meaningless to them.
Right.
That's where the ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox pattern has changed dramatically. Content now is king, and wherever you can get it, that's where it goes. So if the streaming services are beginning to encroach upon the networks, it's the programming aspects. That part's my game. That part I know how to play. Mm-hmm. And that's where programming is becoming very, very sharp. They're looking at the streaming services. They know where the future is. That's why you're looking at Facebook and Twitter and Amazon and Hulu and Netflix and a number of other companies getting into the game in the programming business, because that's where the cord nevers don't care about where the programming came from. They just want to see it. And if Game of Thrones is on HBO and HBO is decided we're going to develop our own app to make it work, then that's good for them. They don't care.
Sell it cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll be able to buy the programming that you want, as opposed to programming, the people who have 600 cable channels and only watch 6 of them.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's about what's going to happen. ESPN has changed that dynamic by launching their own sports-only app. And DAZN, which is another sports-related one, they are big in Europe, and they made their foray into the United States, mainly in the boxing area. But DAZN is only an OTT deal. And so they've done some amazing things. We're going to talk IPTV with Jay at another time, but programming, my friends, that's where it's all at. And how you get it is going to be the next big thing as 2019, 20, and beyond rolls on, because more and more you're seeing programmers like Sony and others deciding, you know what, we have been getting beat around by the networks. We've been, killed by other people. We're tired of it. We're going to take it right to the people and let them decide whether they like it or not.
That's right. And I think that the cable companies' biggest flaw is how they're addressing their losses. They're like, we're losing so much because no one's buying this or buying that anymore. And I think you touched on it really well with the golf. It's like, I'll watch UFC because I don't pay extra for it. Most of these fights, I'm not paid $70 or 60 or 50, whatever they are these days. I'm not going to pay that. If I didn't have, HBO, I sure wouldn't buy it. Simply because I don't care. It's not that important to me. And I think my generation and younger than me, we can be entertained a lot of different ways, and it doesn't have to be in front of a cable box. We can put our phone in our hand, find a website maybe not many people have heard of, and we can still watch whatever we want. And I think making it convenient and affordable and cheap, and including the content we want, that was right. You really touched it, and I think that's exactly what they need to do, and I think they will. I think they're going to turn a corner and start to make some changes, or they're going to just quadruple the price of internet and, start blocking as much content as they can, which now is legal. Hopefully that fight continues as well, net neutrality, and hopefully the good guys come out on top.
I think so and hope so. And I think from the programming aspect, on your side with the tech aspect, it's a really interesting concept in so much as Acorn has done it, and some of the others, where you will be watching a show that's a Canadian show or a British show or an Australian show, and all of a sudden you'll be able to watch that show. Let's say it aired last night in the UK on the BBC or ITV. You'll be able to watch it on Acorn the following day.
Yeah.
In almost real time.
Yeah. And beat that, Time Warner.
Yeah, exactly. Good luck with that. That ain't going to happen. So the world is getting much, much smaller, and your programming choices are getting much, much larger. And with the ability to bring in all these different sources that Jay has alluded to and we've talked about, you really have many options. So I'm looking at what I think is going to be an exciting 2019 and beyond. And Jay, it's time for you to promote. Tell people where to find you, how to get you.
Best way to find me is our website's boommedia.org. You can get us on YouTube, youtube.com/boomcody, Kodi. I really need to change that. We haven't done Cody in so long. I'll change that link. Hold on. I'll make this as soon as we're done. You can get me on YouTube at youtube.boommedia.org. And I mean, once you have our products, we have all kinds of support groups and stuff that you can get in, and we're pretty easy to get a hold of. We got a strong team of 7 right now working, and everyone's putting in a ton of hours to, keep the products coming. We're innovating the best we can and bringing the best of what this world has to offer.
Special thanks to Jay Henderson of Boom Media. By all means, check out his website, boommedia.org. That's boommedia.org to get all of the information you need on everything tech. And by all means, check out his YouTube channel, okay? Check that one out because you're going to want to see it. All right, we'll be back with more of Stream On after this from BMW.
Life is about making decisions. At BMW I, we decided it was time to reinvent the car from the ground up, making sure we were open for truly innovative ideas. We decided that the car we wanted must be electric, and it should be made of extremely light and super strong carbon fiber. And finally, we decided to make it more intelligent and added our promise of incomparable driving pleasure. We made all these decisions to offer you a choice. The all-electric BMW i3.
Welcome back, everybody. Now, if you're not one of the over 50,000 people who have taken the opportunity to subscribe to our podcast, first of all, shame on you. Second of all, it could not be simpler, all right? You can go to the iTunes store because we are part of the Apple Podcast family. Head out to Google Play because we are part of the Google Podcast family. You can go to Spreaker, Stitcher. You can find us on Spotify, as well as TuneIn and iHeartRadio. Oh, and check us out on YouTube as well. Now, those are just a few of the many, many, many places you can find us. All you have to do is search Stream On with Jim Williams, hit the favorite button or the subscribe button, and each week you will get a brand new edition of the podcast delivered to your tablet, your phone, or to both. Okay, so please do that. We would greatly appreciate it. Speaking of greatly appreciating things, we'd like to thank our guest for the day. That, of course, is the one and only Jay Henderson from Boom Media. He is our tech man. He's got all the information about streaming video, all the different things that you need to know. You can find out at boommedia.org. And by all means, without question, check out his YouTube channel. Tons of information there. All of it's linked in our program notes down below. So check that out. All right, next week, we are going to Broadway HD. That's right. We're going to visit with Stu Lane and Bonnie Comley, and we have a very special guest along with them. She is the woman who played Janis Joplin on Broadway. Outstanding play. A Night with Janis Joplin, the star, Cleveland's own Mary Bridget Davies. That's right, Mary Bridget Davies, the woman who played Janis Joplin, will join us on our next edition of Stream On. So exciting stuff coming next week. Hope you enjoyed this week's show. For the entire staff and management here at Stream On, have a wonderful weekend and do take care.